I'm Idiotech, and this is my review of The Witcher 3 Heart of Stone expansion, which retails for $9.99. Obviously, this being an expansion to the base game, this isn't going to be a traditional review. If you're looking for a more traditional review of the base game, please see the link in the description for my detailed review of The Witcher 3. There will be some minor spoilers in this review, mostly just from the footage I'm playing in the background. I will try my best to keep that at a minimum, but this is a heavily story-focused expansion, and so if you're looking to go in blind, all I'll say is it's well worth the price of admission, and I thoroughly recommend it to anyone looking for more Witcher 3 content. With all of that out of the way, let's get into it. Now, before we get into story, we need to talk about a few minor gameplay additions and features they've added this time around. As far as I could tell, they've added one new enemy type to the game, which is a spider-like creature. They have an interesting mechanic where they avoid you until they can web you and lock you down, and then they all swarm in for an attack. It's a nice addition to the game. Obviously, I would like to have seen more here, more monsters, more creatures is always a great thing. I think maybe they could have put an extra couple in, to be honest, but it's nice to see nonetheless. Now, there are a ton of boss battles in this game, a ton, and they're all great. I didn't have a problem with one of them. I found some of them frustrating because they were hard, but I really enjoyed them overall. They each had different and unique mechanics that I had to work out and exploit to progress through the story, and I thoroughly enjoyed the boss fights. In fact, they reminded me a lot of Dark Souls at times, and I think they may have taken some inspiration from that game when creating these boss battles. I thoroughly enjoyed the boss fights in this game, and they do take up a significant portion of the time it takes to complete the base storyline content. Overall, boss fights, fucking awesome, really enjoyed them. We also have a small new area to explore north of Novigrad, as well as a few Witcher contracts and side quests to do. So this is great, and it's nice to see them expand the world. They've also added a rune master who lives in that region. Overall, I have no complaints here. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen a new continent, but they've promised that in the next expansion, and you can't have everything, I guess. So yeah, it's nice to see them expand the world a bit. Finally, before we move on to story, I need to talk about the Rune Master. Now, it's a small addition to the game in my opinion. It's kind of presented as a large one, but what he offers you isn't particularly useful. There are a couple of sort of optimized choices there that are kind of obvious choices for those just looking for a performance increase to their character. There are some more sort of interesting ones, but overall, I didn't find what he allowed you to do particularly exciting. Now, I wasn't able to unlock the mastercrafted version of the Rune Master, so maybe he has more there, but it is a massive gold sink. I think I spent 15,000 gold on him just to get him to where I got him. And there wasn't a huge amount there for me. One benefit he does have, however, is the ability to add sockets to weapons and armor, which I think is awesome, and it probably should have been in the base game to begin with, but overall, I think it's a great addition, whether or not you use the core Rune Master feature. I just didn't find it particularly exciting. You'll be seeing it on the screen now. You can see some of the things he offers you. It's just not that interesting, really, and I really hope they flesh that out going forward with additional expansions. But it's nice to see them trying something different and adding something to the game, and as I said, I really like the additional sockets to weapons and armor, and I'll probably be using that a lot. Overall, I'm pleased with the new gameplay additions, and while I found, some of them to be a little lacking, and I would have appreciated a little more in certain areas, it's a great start, and I hope to see some of these mechanics improved and fleshed out in future expansions. Now, onto the story. Now, as I said, I'll do my best not to spoil this as best I can, and honestly, this is the core reason to pick up this expansion. If you want this expansion for tons of new gameplay stuff, you're not really going to get that. There is some stuff, but it's mostly about the storyline and the quest here. And it's great. I thoroughly enjoyed it for the most part. The characters are well realized. They still have that grey moral tone that was set out in the base game. And the plot's really interesting and has a few unexpected twists and turns, especially when one character, who I won't mention, from the early base game shows up and the story takes a sudden twist and it gets very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I did have one problem though, and that's the romantic quest line. Now, I didn't really want to engage in that. I don't find them particularly interesting in RPGs. I appreciate the fact that RPGs are trying to do this more and have romance and have fleshed out characters that have romance and they sleep with each other and all that. I appreciate that they're trying to do that, but it felt a little heavy-handed in this case, and it took up more than 2 hours plus of the core storyline to go through this romantic relationship stuff, and I didn't really want to engage with it. So I made the choice to sort of go against that decision and do my best to sort of get out of it without being a dick. And they didn't really provide me with options to do that. Ultimately, it led to a position where I either slept with the woman or I broke her heart. And I would have appreciated a little bit more flexibility there, a little bit more subtlety, and I kind of expect that from this world and The Witcher 3 in general, but if you like romantic storylines, there is some stuff in there that you'll get a kick out of, but for me, I didn't really enjoy it, and I kind of wanted to just progress on to the actual story and move on, and not really deal with that chick and that romance stuff. Before I move on to my conclusion, I just want to point out, I played with a pre-made character. They give you a pre-made character if you want. You start at level 32. He's pretty basic. Now, I would really strongly suggest you don't do this. There's a couple of reasons for that. First being that the character they give you is not going to be anywhere near as geared or as wealthy as the character that you would have if you progressed through the whole game. Now, my character wasn't quite at the level required to do this content, so I thought, well, I've got to review it. I'll just jump in with a pre-made character. And also, it'll give me an idea of what they're expecting balance-wise when it comes to the certain enemies and stuff like that. Now, I don't think that's a good idea in retrospect, and I would have preferred to just spend a little bit more time leveling up my character, getting him to the right place so I could have progressed through with my actual character. Obviously, for multiple reasons, and, you know, my character being the one who does it instead of this pre-made one. But the other reason is that there are a few spoilers. So if you haven't completed the main story of the base game, there are a few minor spoilers, but you know, they're somewhat significant. They don't go into huge amounts of detail, but there are some spoilers. So if you haven't completed that content, I thoroughly recommend you don't do this until you've completed the base game, at least the main storyline. So yeah, those are just two caveats that you need to know going into this. My conclusion is this. If you want more Witcher 3, you want just more Witcher 3 content, it's a must buy. But if you're a new player who's not finished all the current content, I really suggest you just hold off. There's no rush on this stuff. You don't have to jump in immediately. It's nice stuff. It's enjoyable content, and it's great fun, but it's not worth doing unless you've already completed the base game. But overall, it's a fantastic expansion. I can't wait to see what they offer in the next expansion, which is going to have a whole new continent and a bunch of other stuff. So it's an excellent first expansion. And in my opinion, it only strengthens my belief that The Witcher 3 is 2015's Game of the Year. If you found this helpful or useful in some way, please let me know in the comments. If you have your own thoughts and opinions on the game, please let me know. Otherwise, like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.